Welcome to episode 2 of creating our VFX selection and destination markers. We're going to dive straight into creating the Niagara effect. We'll start in the content directory and we'll create a folder. I'm going to call it VFX. We're going to create a new Niagara system. We're looking for one of the burst ones. Simple sprite burst, I think, is what we're after. Create one of those. I'm going to call it NS marker or Niagara system marker. So now in here we can come to the properties, change this to GPU simulated, and this area here is, if we come across to the properties here, there is a fixed bounds option. Just enable that. That'll get rid of that warning. So on the emitter update, we want the inactive response to be kill, so it'll destroy the particle. The loop behavior to infinite, and the loop duration can be 1. All we should need there. Then on the initialize particle, we're just going to put the lifetime to 1. And the sprite size, we are going to set a user parameter of that. So if you come over here, if you don't have this tab, I think you can enable it in the window menu. And we're just going to add a user parameter, and it's going to be float. And we're just going to call this size, I guess. That's fine. And then coming across the size here, we should be able to assign it, or we can search for it in here, or we can drag it. Actually, I'll set this by default to 150. That's our sort of our marker size. Actually, the loop duration shouldn't be 1. I messed that up. That was in emitter update. This should be 0.1. There we go. So it's got a solid. You can see there's about 10 particles there. You can try and reduce this down or up. But you're going to get a pulse like that. So probably 1's probably about the best we can do. That's fine. If we come into system update, we can change this to 1. And here, back here, it's still about 10 particles, that's fine. Not many at all anyway, that's good. So that's it for there. So now we need to create a custom module. And the reason why we're going to create a custom module, because we're not using a decal, it's not going to project onto the ground. So we're going to need to lift the, it's a sprite, so we're going to need to lift it off the ground a little bit. And also, like if we're using terrain, we want to adjust it to the terrain. So we're going to pass in some variables, and we're going to adjust the height to the terrain and the angle using the normal of the terrain. So we're going to need some user parameters for this. So we're going to create some, and we're going to create height, so it'll be a float again. I'm going to just call it height. So that'll be the height off the terrain. And we're going to need a position, which will be a vector. And we'll call this position. And we're going to use another vector, which they call facing, which is what's going to be that orientation. It's just the term they use for a sprite, the rotation of a sprite facing. Things can face the camera. We're going to be facing to a custom vector, which is the terrain normal. I think that's all we need. We can actually add one more, and that is the material. So this one will be I think it's material instance, or interface, there we go. And we'll just call this material. This is just so we can swap out the material at runtime. We don't particularly need this now, but we can set this to our marker material by default. Our height, I might just make it, 10 by default. We'll have some settings later where we can adjust this on the fly, so that's fine. Now to create a custom module, you got this tab here, local modules again. It's in here somewhere, yep, local modules. There's a number of different ways you can create modules. I find it's easier just to come in here, click the plus. So we're going to call this align landscape. It doesn't matter what you call it. That's fine. And in here, we need to add our inputs. If we come onto this here and we add facing, or actually, sorry, it's got to be, it's a custom one. So we're creating them again. So it's going to be a vector and we're going to call it facing. And then we're going to add another vector and that will be our landscape position. These names are just, it's like creating local variables in this module. That's what we're doing. So the names can be whatever. This one will be a float. And it's going to be the, let's call it landscape height. I know exactly what it is. And then for the output map here, we can actually grab facing, which is the sprite renderer sprite facing. And we can connect our facing directly. And then here is the position. So this will be the position of the sprite. And there's a landscape. No. Yeah, that's just the common position. That's what we go after there, and that'll be what we're going to create that. Coming out of here, we need to break this position open, so because we need to modify the height. So break vector. And then if you just drag off here into convert, you should get the convert node. And we can add in X and Y, and we'll create a new one. Float. Add we ring name, there we go. Just change that to Z. Or Z, whatever you want to. Let me change it, yep. And then on the outputs, the output is going to be a vector. And then we want to add the floats down here. Float. So this one will be, work with me here, come on. X. It'll be the fiddliest little node, doesn't it? Y. Let's see. And then we just connect these across. What the hell? Oh, sorry, down here. Like so. And then we need to convert this vector to a position. So there's a node for a vector to position. And that goes in there. And then we just need to factor in our height now. So we just need to add. So we just add. And we get our height. Because the landscape position will be the bottom, and then this is more like a height offset, not an actual height. There we go, and that's our module. So now we can save that. Oops. Save. So back in here, we need to, on our module, if we can now drag it into our sprite burst here. So we're going to put it firstly in the particle spawn here. And we need to assign our inputs. Why aren't they showing up? Is it not? Apply. An error somewhere. I was wondering why that was different. My bad. Alright, we can get rid of all these. These are actual outputs. Yeah, I've never had to do that before. I was wondering why. Just had to open that pin. Sorry. You went through and did all that. Just a correction here. That shouldn't be a local position. that set to local, just go to change namespace to particles, and that's what you need. And if we come back out to our thing, we've got our inputs, and we can now bind these to our user parameters. So not size, height, our height, facing, and position. And now we need to add this same module to put it above the forces. I'm going to put it above color as well. And then we just need to remap those again. So white, facing, and positioning. That's all good. Now if we come, the last one, you can mess with colors, but the default was going to work fine. We can set our default material. So we'll look for our marker again. That's the marker. You're probably not going to get a preview because we're using custom parameters for things. But in here, we need to change our facing mode. Needs to be custom facing vector. And I think that's it. That's all we need. All right, so that's that. And I think we can start on our C++ now. So I'm going to close this. I'll make sure everything's saved. In the next episode, we'll start on the C++ for the marker component.